Pedro.
I was just going to into Premiere and clip last month's lecture and get the beginning. All right. Continuing on. So pink.
Spring.
Spring. It's like youth. It's young. In some cultures, like for instance in Russian, they say they don't have the word pink. They say light red.
Think of Easter.
Easter. Yeah, we just had that. It tends to be sort of youthful. It can be sultry, though. It's sometimes associated with femininity, although I think there's a backlash against that that's taking place because women are not just one color. But you can see it's used in a lot of different ways. Orange, what comes to mind when you see orange?
The fall.
Energetic.
Yeah, it's got energy, right?
Fall.
Fall, yeah, fall colors, pumpkins, Halloween. Orange can be very elegant. It can be very tacky. It can be like fun and playful, but sometimes it can be kind of serious. Orange is also one of the colors used by Full Sail in its branding. So I think it represents creativity. Yellow, what do you think of when you see yellow?
Happy.
Warning.
Happy, a happy warning. Yeah, again, we have a little bit of a paradox, right? It's like happy flowers, sunshine, brightness, but it can also be warning, scary. If you see a snake with yellow stripes, that's not good, right?
Ooh. Bad luck.
So again, there's a bit of paradox in a lot of colors. So as you look at them, you think, how am I using this to make it mean one thing over another? Here's blue. What comes to mind when you see blue?
The ocean.
Calm.
Calm, ocean, yeah.
Powerful.
Sadness.
What was that last one?
Sadness.
Sadness, yeah.
Masculine.
It does have a masculine association. It can be very calm, meditative, new agey, but it can also be kind of big blue, corporate, conservative. Again, a little bit of paradox with blue. And sadness. It can be sadness, it can be peace. Here's green. What comes to mind when you see green?
Abundance.
Abundance, yeah, money, number one answer.
Nature. Envy.
Nature, yeah, definitely envy too.
Calm.
Yeah, it could be green, earth, nature, happy, fresh, or it could be toxic, acid, toxic waste, right? See that? Yellow and green. We think of flowers and grass, but like if you're playing a video game, something's glowing green, it's probably not good.
Stay away.
I mean,
Again, paradox. So two things that are opposite coming from one color. How we see color is important to understand too. As designers, you need to sort of understand how your eyes work. You know, the image comes through the front of the eye. There's a lens there. It sort of flips upside down. And then the back here is just a small area that senses all the colors we see. There are cells there that are cones and rods. The rods help you see in the dark. The cones help you see color, and there are three kinds, red, green, and blue. How each of these red, green, and blue cones sense the light coming in through your eye enables us to see all the colors we see. Color blindness is a condition that you have to be aware of as a designer because if you're designing for the general public, you may have to take that into account. There's various forms of color blindness. Some comes over age, over time. But here we have some numbers. Can you read all these numbers? Read them out loud. Ready? This one.
7,
7,
6,
6,
26,
26,
73,
73,
74,
74,
45.
45.
All right, you all got 100% on that test. Did anybody have trouble seeing the numbers? If you couldn't see the numbers, you could be colorblind, and the reason why is because the only difference between where the number is and where the number isn't is hue, color. There's no value difference and no shape difference. So it's really a test. There are other tests as well. But if you're a designer and you're colorblind, is not the end of the world. There's ways to work around that, but we need to know that. There's also a theory that some people have more than 3 cones. It would only be women, and they're called tetrachromats. The story I heard on this, the guy said he was talking to a woman who he believed to be a tetrachromat, and he said, "Look at this beautiful blue sky, clear day." And he said, "You see blue?" And she said, "Yeah, I also see pink." And he's like, "There's no pink there. There's, it's the middle of the day, bright blue sky." She's using the word pink to describe something that she's seeing that the rest of us cannot. Kind of freaky when you think about it. There are some animals, in this previous slide I was talking about, rock shrimp, have 13 cones in their eyes. They can see way more colors than we can. And then some animals like dogs only have 2. So it's interesting when you think about color, how we're able to talk about it makes it have more reality. So that's why we like to talk about color. All right, stare at the white dot in the middle of this flag, and I'll tell you what's happening to your eyes. While you stare at one color for a long time, your eyes become accustomed to that color environment, so to speak. One of the great things about humans is that we're adaptable, so we adapt to our surroundings. And if you think about when you go from a dark room out into bright sunlight, at first it's really hard to see. And then your eyes adjust, and then it looks normal. Go back into the dark room, and suddenly you can't see very well again until your eyes adjust. Well, the same is true for color. Once you become adjusted to a certain color environment, you take it away, you see the opposite. You see the complement of those colors. Does everybody see the flag?
Yes.
It's important to know this because your eyes can trick you. You're seeing something that isn't even there because you've been staring at one color for a long time. So if you stare at one color, if you're working on something for a long time, you can get desensitized to how that color really looks. And it's almost like you have to refresh your palette, like get away from it for a little bit. We also talk about the structure of color, how to bring structure to this amazing phenomena of color using different systems. One of the systems that we use to understand color is called the spectrum. Now, you all remember this from Hugo's class? Roy G. Biv. I know he taught you all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the spectrum goes from over here, red, to violet. Now, off on the far end of red, beyond where we can see, what is there? We can't see it, but we can feel it when we get the sun's rays on our skin.
No, it's ultraviolet and
Infrared.
Infrared, yeah.
Infrared light comes from the sun, and it's what we feel when you feel the warmth. It actually is warmer. If we could see infrared light, it would be confusing to go out in the daylight because it would just be streaming down all around us and be kind of hard to see. Over here, I think someone said it, ultraviolet, which we also cannot see. But ultraviolet, if you use a black light, you start to be able to see it a little bit. This word spectrum was invented by Isaac Newton. Newton, you remember him? He's the guy who came up with the universal laws of gravitation. which enabled us to send people to the moon, which he did in the 1600s. Interesting thing, he was in college at Oxford, and they had the plague in Europe. So they sent everyone home, and they didn't have distance learning then. So he just studied on his own and came up with the laws of gravitation while he was like age 22. So a lot can be done when you're at home. He also did experiments with light. He put a prism in his window shade and speculated that the white light was being broken into its component parts, which he called the spectrum. And people said, you're crazy. It's just color in the glass being added to the white light. And he proved them wrong by taking another prism and turning it back into white light. In fact, what's happening is the photons, which are particles and waves at the same time, if you're into quantum physics, they slow down at different rates when they hit the glass. And this is all part of white light. He was absolutely correct for reasons he couldn't have known. I think he's either an alien or a time traveler. Other people in the world of color, Louis Prang was very prominent. He came up with the red, yellow, and blue primaries that we all use. Invented Christmas cards because in the winter months, his printing business wasn't doing so well. Ostwald, who tried to disprove some of Newton's theories and ended up reproving them. This was his color wheel that he created. And then the Bauhaus, very big influence, form follows function. The primary colors were their hallmark. So this is a painting by Piet Mondrian. It's red, yellow, and blue. He had no green, he hated green in his studio. And if you look at Bauhaus architecture, there's a lot of primary colors being used all the time. And here's Johannes Itten, who gave us the quote from the beginning. He has his own book called The Elements of Color, which is a great treatise on how color works. He created a new kind of color wheel. And he, one of his students was Joseph Albers, who lived in the United States, taught at a college in North Carolina. But he did hundreds of paintings like this to show that color looks different based on what's next to it. He would note on the canvas exactly what the formula was for every color, so he could ensure that it was like the exact same color and how it interacted differently. Here's a little demonstration. So you have the color here and here that appear different based on the surround, but in reality, they're the same color. So the lesson is, think about what's around the color you're using as well as the color itself. How do we describe color? Does it pop? Does it have depth? Talking about color, again, is very important. This is a painting by Mark Rothko. What do you guys think of Rothko's painting?
I'd say it's
I think it's
pretty dull at the edges.
Yes, Angelo, say it again.
I'd say on the edges of all the colors, it looks very dull, and then when it gets closer and closer to the center of like the pink and the red,
Yeah.
it looks to be like growing in tone.
Yeah, these paintings are like 15 feet tall. They're huge. And Rothko was part of a movement called minimalism. And there is some artistry, Angelo, as you pointed out, to how this color is layered on. And when you actually see the canvas, it's kind of remarkable in a way, because most people look at it and say Pop-Tart, or it just looks like scribbles or something. But what you have to understand, sort of the significance of the moment that he created this. Up until that time, every painting was of something, a picture into a window of a world either real or imagined. And this is not a picture of anything. It is just the color sort of for its own sake. So there's a certain relevance to it, What were you going to say, Tristan?
For this picture, for that, well, for the painting, for me, it kind of sort of just seems like I'm looking at the painting, but through like a frosted glass door, just frosted glass. In
Yeah.
that sense.
You said it was 15. You said it was 15 feet tall too.
Yeah, they're big, huge canvases. Like a person standing in front of it would probably come up to about here. I mean, he has different size paintings, but a lot of them were these large canvases.
Yeah, scale has a lot of impression too, because the color, you know, you walk, you know.
Yeah, this is a terrible little digital spot illustration of it. If you get to see the real painting, it's worth it to sort of form your own opinion in the real space with it. By the time we're done with this class, you'll understand what all these numbers mean. This is from the graphic standards for the YMCA. This is what designers do. We have to like spec out colors like this. So more on that later. There's also different systems to understand color. One of the most important, of course, is the color wheel. The color wheel helps us understand color relationships, and we're going to use that in our first assignment. So let's go through the color wheel. Primaries. What makes a primary primary?
It's one of the main colors that are in our cones, no? So,
Yes.
No colors can be mixed to make them.
Yes, right. You can't mix colors to make them. But if you mix two primaries, you get what's called a secondary color. These are the secondaries, violet, orange, and green. If you mix a primary and a secondary, you get a tertiary color. And there we have a 12-step color wheel. And this gives us some color relationships that we're going to use in our first assignment. If you looked at it like a family tree, like there's the grandparents and all the parents and then the grandkids. I don't know, maybe. These terms, hue, saturation, brightness, and value. You've all heard these before, right?
Yep.
So let's just, we'll go through this quickly just to understand the exact definition for this class. So hue is where you are on the color wheel. If here in a color picker, you select the hue radio button right here, this strip becomes a color wheel. If you look at this, it's just like a color wheel, but it's stretched out instead of in a circle. There's a little circle there. Do you know what that stands for?
no.
It stands for
Degree.
degrees, yes. Degrees, if you think of it like a compass, really, that's what hue is. It goes around the circle like a compass, 360 degrees. So at the top at 0, we have red. What do you think 360 is?
Red.
Red.
Yeah, also red. Goes all the way around. Brightness is a measure of how much black is in the color. Now, this is always confusing for people because brightness, it doesn't sound like black. But just remember, they both begin with the letter B. With the brightness radio button selected, this becomes a brightness slider. So it goes from 100% pure color to 0, which is black. And it's in percentage, as you can see. Saturation is a measure of how much white is in the color. And again, switch this and all of a sudden you've got a saturation slider. So we go from 100% saturation, which is full color, all the way to 0, which is pure white. Value we talk about is light and darkness, regardless of the hue. So you can have two hues that are the same value, or you can have one hue in many different values. It's important to understand these structures because this is how you're going to manipulate color as you go through things. So now we're going to do a color wheel, and we're going to do this collectively. If you're able to, we're going to try to open Illustrator and create a document that just fits nice and horizontally on your screen. If you go, let's see. All right. We're going to make a color wheel. So if you're able to do this with me, that's great. Well, first thing I'm going to do, I've created an artboard here. I want to make sure my color mode is RGB. So File, Color Mode, RGB. I'm going to go to my artboards preferences here and do a show center mark. So I have a little center mark right there. And next I'm going to drag out a guide. If you don't have your ruler showing, it's Command R. Brings up the rulers. Drag out a guide here. And one from the top. And now I'm going to hit L on the keyboard. Does anyone know what that does? No. It gives me the ellipse tool. So I can make a circle at the top of my page. So I'm going to position the guide up here, hold down the Shift and the Option keys at the same time and drag out a circle. Shift makes it a perfect circle. Option brings it out from the center. So once I've got that out, I want to take off the stroke. And this is going to be the top of our color wheel. So what color should be up at the top of the color wheel?
Red.
Red, right? Right now we have white. So what degree is red? Should be 0, right?
Yes.
Why isn't it red? It says it's red right here.
You haven't moved the little thing to the red spot.
Click it. Click on the actual color red inside of here.
It's
In
because
here?
of the fact that the saturation is still 0.
Thank you. Who said that?
I didn't know it was like that.
Tristan.
Tristan. All right. 100 points, 50 points for Hufflepuff. All right. Here you go. Saturation all the way up. Brightness is up. And now it's red. All right, we're going to rotate around the color wheel. So R is the rotate tool. I'll position that in the middle. Option click, and that gives me the rotate tool dialog box. How many degrees? We're going to go 12 steps, 12-step color wheel. So what's 12 divided by 360, or 360 divided by 12?
30.
30, right. I'm going to hit copy, 30 degrees, copy. Now, with it still selected, I'm just going to hit Command D on the keyboard and go all the way around. I keep touching Command D, and now I've got 12-step color wheel. Everybody follow me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to select 12 o'clock, hold down the Shift key, select 4 o'clock, and then also 8 o'clock. So I got those 3. That's where my primary colors are going. With those 3 selected, I'm going to go to Transform, Transform Each. And I'm going to make them 120, just to make them a little bigger than the rest. All right, so I've got that. Now, red up here, over here we want yellow, right? So what hue, let's select hue, what hue should yellow be? You guys give me an idea?
Let's see. That's
If I start moving up here,
60.
60, yeah, that sounds good. All right, over here we want blue, right? So what hue number do I want for blue?
120.
231.
131. All right, here's 131. Does that look like blue to you guys?
You said 231.
I said 231.
231. All right. Correct. All right. There we go. All right. We got the 3 primaries. Now we do the secondaries. So this one would be orange. What number you think for orange?
40.
40. All right. And then between yellow and blue right here, this would be green, right? What number?
131.
131. And then between blue and red,
3.
283.
283. All right, we've got our primaries, we've got our secondaries. Now we do the tertiaries. So if you go between orange and red, and now you can see where we go, maybe to like, I want to see what I'm looking at here. So it's like a red orange, and then here is a yellow orange. And then here is yellowish green, right? And between green and blue, somewhere in there. And then between blue and violet. And then between violet and red. Something like that. All right. So we've got a color wheel, right? Does this color wheel look right to you guys?
It's a little bright.
Yeah, it's a little bright. It's a little off. And the reason for that is because this color wheel is a red, yellow, blue color wheel. But if you look at our color space, document color mode, we're in RGB. What are the primary colors in RGB mode?
Red, green, blue.
Blue, right? They're different primaries. Closer match to what we've done is CMYK. So I'm going to switch to CMYK and watch what happens. What happened to my colors?
They became grayscale.
The grayscale?
The saturation went down.
It seems duller, right?
Yeah.
The reason for that is because there are a lot more colors in RGB color space than there are in CMYK. So when I switch to document mode, it can no longer show me those RGB colors. They don't exist in this color space. If I decide, oops, I got to go back to RGB, nothing changes. Because these colors do exist in RGB, it's not going to automatically change them back. If we open up some of these colors and look at the CMYK, the HSB, you can see the saturation brightness, which we were both 100% before, are now down quite a bit. So it changes all the numbers. So the key thing to remember is know what color space you're going to work in. If you're doing stuff that's going to be going to print, you should work in CMYK color space, because you don't want to create colors that are impossible to replicate in print. Inversely, if you're working on stuff that is, like if you have an RGB photo and you want to maintain that larger color space to get the most out of it. All right, if you did this along with me, or if you want to do it later, you can turn that into the color wheel assignment. You can just save it last name, first name, color wheel. I am not going to turn it in.
Do we hand it in as the file itself, or do we hand it in as a JPEG or a PNG?
You can do, turn it as JPEG, that's easier.
Okay.
All right, everybody doing all right? Do we need to stretch, take a break, do some yoga?
Pretty
No?
good.
Still good? All right, let's keep going. All right, Pantone. Pantone is a color matching system. They print out these books that have swatches of color printed on them, and underneath each one is a code, a number. This works to be able to specify colors for somebody at a distance. So if I was printing something in California, I would tell the printer I want a certain like Pantone 186 red, and he can look in his Pantone book and know exactly which color I'm talking about. Pantone is a for-profit company. They put together these chip books. They cost like $500 a piece, so we're not handing them out. But you should know how to use Pantone. And so we're going to show you a sort of workaround for that to figure out Pantone colors, because you're going to use Pantone colors throughout your career if you're designing things. Pantone system is different than hex system. Hex is just part of notating RGB values, but Pantone values, there's a limited number of colors, even less than just straight CMYK, but they're used throughout the industry as a standard. I'm going to show you a video of Pantone, and I have not had a lot of luck with videos on Zoom. So if it's not working, just let me know, and I'll post it on the assignment so you can watch it later. So here we go.
We sit in a really unique vantage point. We're touching so many different industries, whether it's graphic design, fashion, interiors, cosmetics, industrial design. We're able to really look at that broad array of color trends and preferences and bring them into the new systems that we launch here.
The first time I heard of Pantone was when I was designing for print, and I discovered how I needed these little paper chips to do anything. Pantone gives color form. It gives shape, system, organization to color, and we all need color for everything.
Color is infinite. You can always split the difference between two colors. In the development of the Pantone Plus series, our color engineers picked out points within color space for us to create a new color. We inputted that point into the formulation system and developed a specific recipe. Once we have this ink recipe, our ink technicians turn it into an ink, turn it into a print, and from that point on, the birth of a new color exists.
Sometimes we're looking at color ranges that exist and we're just getting a little more complex. Other times we're adding brand new color categories like the neons, the pastels, and the new colored metallics.
If you're going into production, the word from the printer or the supplier is, give me a Pantone. What Pantone is it? I'll match it. I mean, the things that I've learned throughout my career in working with major brands is that color accuracy is really important. Consistency is a measure of a brand, and if it's the same every time, you win. If it's slightly different each time, it's awful.
This is the Pantone press room. 2 printing presses that drive the manufacture of all Pantone publications. This press is the manufacturing key to Pantone. This press allows us to print 28 colors in one impression through the press. There is no other printing press in the world that can do this.
We have a very unique place in the ecosystem that is color design. So as we were looking at new product development, we were listening to our customers, and they were telling us we want more color. We want a new design that's more intuitive. We want digital tools. So Pantone Plus is really the result of that kind of input from designers across platform, across the world.
$224 new colors were added, and the digital solutions that we've married up with them
allow them to be used in current workflows. The Pantone Color Manager is software that we'll be releasing with Pantone Plus. It is a digital representation of all of our fan decks, and it allows a designer or anyone working with Pantone colors to be able to push those digital values into all of their design applications. And over the history of the development of the book, new sections have been added on at the end, which broke the family orientation of the book. The book has been reordered now so that all families of colors are next to each other in a predictable manner. My favorite Pantone color? Full 32 red.
We use color in design to convey certain feelings, emotions, or meanings. I use Pantone as kind of a universal color language. I actually don't know what I would do if we didn't have the Pantone chips. I guess I would take a client out on the streets and point at a cap and say, "That's a yellow you want." I really don't know.
I think color is one of the most powerful things in the world. I think the ability for there to be new stories in color, just because there's more, I think is going to be great.
All right, so 5,000 colors is not a lot of colors really, but that's what they got. Like I said, it's industry standard. So we're going to show you how to work with it. There are other color systems that you'll notice that are in your apps. Munsell is another one that's so big, but honestly, I've never used any of these in my whole career. Only Pantone. Everyone knows Pantone, so that's why you should know it as well. So we're going to do a color collage. I don't know how to do this now. If we do a color collage, everyone has to pick a color. Let's see. I'm going to have to assign your colors. So I'll just give you the idea of the color collage. Excuse me. So you're going to do, it's essentially like a mood board that like a designer would do, where they have swatches of tile and pieces of fabric and things like that. So you're going to create a document and put different things on it. You're going to get a texture, clothing, shoes, food, nature, animal, interior design, wallpaper, all that. You're going to pick one of these colors. I think the way I'll probably do this is I can allow you guys to select your own color. And then you're going to create a collage that looks something like this. So you're going to put the name of the color and then what you found to be the Pantone color. So in order to determine the Pantone color, first thing you need to do is to download this file from FSO, which is part of the color collage assignment. It's in the integrated learning modules. It's number 2. So I'll show you what this looks like. So here it is. Color collage. So description of the assignment. You have 2 files here. You have a description of everything having to do with the assignment, and then you have this color collage numbers, which is this file here. I've just clicked on it. I'm going to save it. I'm actually just going to save it to my desktop, but don't you do that. And then open it in Photoshop. So when you're in Photoshop, you're going to pick your color that you want to do your color collage on. And I'm just going to get the eyedropper tool and eyedropper it. Now my foreground color is that color. If I double click on this, it brings up the color picker. Now here's the hidden thing that you need to know. Color libraries. If you click on this button, it'll bring up the color libraries that are built into Photoshop. Look at all these color libraries. These are all built-in libraries. The one we're going to use throughout the month is Pantone Plus Solid Coated down there at the bottom. The reason we use that, that's the one that's kind of the most standard for everybody. With that selected, it tells me that my color is Pantone 254C. If you see here, it shows me before and after. It's not a perfect exact match, but that's the closest Pantone match that Photoshop can get for me. So that's what I'm going to use, right? It's important to notice there isn't every color in Pantone. So with that noted, you're going to create this collage that has all these elements in the list. And you're going to make it creative and interesting and try to, if you can't find something that's in your assigned color, you have to make it using Photoshop. All right, so any questions about the color collage?
No.
No. All right, just keep in mind, this is an integrated learning module. It's more or less an exercise and it's worth 1% of your grade. So if you spend hours and hours on this, it's not a good use of your time. Do the best you can. It's essentially pass-fail. So I want you to try to do this. I want you to understand how to select Pantone colors from Photoshop. That's the main thing.
Do you want that submitted as a JPEG or?
Yes.
Okay.
JPEG. Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on. For a painter, gray is the richest color, the one that makes others speak. Paul Clay said that. So what does gray do for us in illustration design?
Gives kind of depth, I think.
Yeah, it creates depth, light and shadow. Gray is sort of the underpinning of what we create. Even technically, you know, the color is always based on top of the value. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to work in black and white to start and then add color. And this is a very good way of working. You're going to create a portrait. Now, this is a drawing by Degas, who you know is a famous impressionist, did the beautiful ballet dancers. But he also understood the importance of understanding light and shadow. He did many studies using pencil drawings. And this is one of them. Matisse, another impressionist, also worked in black and white, understood the importance of understanding value. And then this is Degas' drawing of Matisse. So you're going to create a portrait. You're going to use black and white. These are just sort of for inspiration. There's a lot you can do in the world of black and white, using line, using texture, and using light and shadow. But you're going to create a portrait of your hero. So it could be any person, living or dead, but no fictional characters. So the reason I don't want you to use fictional characters is because fictional characters are the creation of someone else's imagination. And you're creating your own unique kind of piece of artwork for this. You're going to start in black and white, and once you get that established, we're going to go into color. We're going to treat this like you were creating a screen print for a t-shirt. So there's some real strict rules we're going to follow on how to create this. So you're going to use, this is student work. This is H.P. Lovecraft, who is an author. Now, instead of just a portrait of him, it has additional elements in the background. There's a style to the way this is done that tells me more of the story of H.P. Lovecraft. Now, this is the rules we're following. light gray, dark gray, and black and white. That's all you get to use. There are no gradients, no drop shadows. Don't use a lot of effects, but you can use line work and you can use solid areas of grays. Here's another one by a student. So again, light gray, dark gray, and then black and white. This is some hero from World War II, and he created sort of a V for victory there. So I'm looking for more than just translating a head into Illustrator. Here's Frida Kahlo. She did sort of this low poly thing. So again, she's only using dark gray, light gray, black and white. Simon Bolivar. Anybody from Venezuela here? No? All right. He, so dark gray, light gray, black and white, sort of a haunting portrait of him. Nelson Mandela. Looks like the Horn of Africa. You could use a couple of words if you want. It doesn't have to be, not a lot of typography, but a little bit. It's okay. This is this guy, he did Top Gear. Do you remember him? It was a TV show. I can't remember his name. But there's a gear, there's a racing flag, there's something else going on there. All right, who's this guy?
Oh, it's Professor X.
Professor X, yes. Patrick Stewart. So this is a pretty good portrait. It looks like him, right? It's well executed, it's neat. There isn't a lot of concept. It's really just a head. There's some bars in the background. So I want a little more than this. Either a unique style or additional elements or an overall composition that works on a t-shirt that tells more of the story. All right, so here's the whole assignment. It used to be a self-portrait, but in the case of Omar, it's kind of the same thing. But anyway. That's all you got to do. All right. So step by step, you're going to complete this. Here's an example from a student. This is Paula. She did Harry Styles. Now, Harry Styles is kind of a famous person. So she added some elements to create sort of more of a unique art. There's some style to this. This butterfly in the background, she added some plant elements. Notice that the overall composition is sort of freestanding. It's not like cropped into a frame. So this is ideal for a t-shirt. It makes it better for t-shirts look. She added the name there, and light gray, dark gray, and black and white. That's all she's using. So with that in hand, this is what you're going to complete for Wednesday, just this part. We're going to take your artwork after that and convert it into different color relationships. So monochromatic, one color; complementary, two complementary colors; split complementary, 3 colors plus either black or white. She chose white. Double complementary, 4 colors, no black, no white. Analogous, 1 color or colors all next to each other on the color wheel. Triadic, 3 colors plus either black or white. She chose white. You're going to pick a final design. We're going to do screen separations. Omar's going to show you how to do all this stuff. And then you're going to make a final t-shirt. And that is the project. So this project will take you through till next Monday. So any questions, comments about your hero portrait?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to go first, Rebecca?
Yeah. So what if like the hero that we want to do, do we have to have their face shown, or because like what if the person has like a thing where they like wear a mask over their face?
Wear a mask? Yeah. All right. What I'm looking for is for you to create your own kind of unique artwork and also demonstrate some understanding of using light and shadow. So, you know, something just very flat would not really be great for this, but if it has some shape and dimension to it, that's kind of a key part of it.
Okay.
You got thoughts on that, Omar?
I'd say it depends on your composition. By all means, you could do a mask, but does the rest of the composition have contrast and depth, or does it feel flat?
Okay. Because he has like I guess you could kind of say like like those, I forgot what like the genre is called, but it's like these goggles that he wears, and then steampunk, yes, that he has like it's like those steampunk goggles, and then he wears like a he in one of his photos he has like a mask.
Okay.
On the bottom.
So he's like a cosplay character, like he's into that?
No, he's actually like a manga artist, but like,
okay.
During one of his interviews, he was wearing a mask like that.
Okay. Sounds interesting. I can't wait to see what you do with that.
Since we don't have scanners, should we just take a photo of it and bring it into the different?
Omar's going to go through it with you. There
Okay.
are different techniques. So you can use a photo as a reference, or you can draw, and you can draw and take a picture of it. That might be sufficient. But Omar's going to show you a couple techniques on how to do that.
Okay.
True that.
All right. So the way this is going to work, let me just go over some class logistics here since I didn't really record at the beginning. So this assignment, our virtual classroom, which all of you attending found because you're here, is a discussion. So if I go to the discussion, I will post the recording of each day's lecture right here. So it'll be embedded. So you'll be able to reference that. Also, Omar, we're using Slack a lot. So we'll post some class materials there, but everything will also be in FSO for you to reference. So in addition to this assignment being the place where you get the link, and I did change it so that it says CTH all caps for the password. they've started making us use passwords now. You'll be able to find the video there. Your attendance to this virtual classroom is a big help. I can tell you from past experience that people who attended the live sessions every week did really well in the class. People who did not do as well. So it's, you know, in your interest. I know things happen and sometimes you miss. Even if you're late, it's better to show up late than to not show up at all. And I can't imagine having to watch the recording of us talking, because that's not fun.
I mean, my recording is pretty fun, though.
Yeah, of course, Omar.
Sounds good.
All right. There you go. So it's a little insight into Omar's life too. So why not join the meeting?
One chair.
Yeah, he's got an awesome chair. Omar, when's the last time you had to put on real shoes?
Well,
Like-
I bought myself like 2 pairs of sneakers this month, so I've been rocking my kicks. I got some fly kicks I just got this month, so I got some new Air Max 90s special editions.
Wow.
You ain't rocking the thong slippers.
The what?
The thong slippers.
Thong slippers. You know.
Dude, I have not changed out of wearing like sandals this entire last couple months. I don't see a point.
Oh man.
It's good times. I enjoy it.
All right. So I'm going to leave you with Omar. Lab is officially beginning. Omar, thank you so much. I have made you the host.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
All right.